Welcome back to the Fit Life Orange County podcast. I'm your host, Jake Stewart. In today's episode, we get to sit down with Shauna Kozik, who puts us through her amazing story of dealing with a child who has diabetes and kind of the struggles that go along with that and how she works fitness into her day-to-day life. Without further ado, let's jump into it.
Here is Bryce Henson and Jake Stewart, your host of the Fit Life Orange County.
Welcome to the show. Shauna, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It's so nice to have you in the studio with me. Let's start off, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself. So just kind of give us who is Shauna and what's she all about?
All right. My name is Shauna. I'm a busy mom of two. I have a 14-year-old and an almost 12-year-old. Can't believe I forgot her age. I'm a wife of 18 years and a daughter of aging parents. Just an interesting experience. I am currently staying at home. My son, my type 1 diabetic son, transitioned to middle school, and it was a bigger transition than we thought. You're very cocooned in elementary school, and we transitioned to middle school, and it was a bigger transition than we thought. He needed additional support, so I'm staying home right now. But in a prior life, I was a help desk analyst, so I translate technical procedures for our help desk agents, and that's what I do. I volunteer at the elementary school. I sell popsicles. I'm the popsicle lady, and that's about it.
That's awesome. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, and I think before we dive into kind of your fitness story, which I know we can definitely talk about, I am a little bit more curious. Just kind of, there's probably a lot of moms that are also watching this podcast right now that maybe have a son or a daughter that maybe is diabetic or maybe has some other issues or something like that. Can you talk me through just kind of a day, what does that entail, on your end? Obviously, I know there's things going on with him, but what does that pull from you? And just kind of open my eyes a little bit, just because I'm still kind of blinded to this as well.
We're in a transition phase. So I think when you have a child who doesn't fit a round hole, and he's a bit of a square peg, or your child's doesn't fit societal norms, you have to develop your own parenting philosophy for how you're going to manage your child through whatever their issues are. So in our case, our son's a type 1 diabetic. We've been almost 10 years as a type 1, so we have a very strong philosophy that it's Jaren's disease, and we provide the support. So we manage, right now we're trying to transition him to managing his own needs. So how does he manage his blood sugar? What does he recognize as his lows? How does he feel? Changing his sites, changing the cartridges. He is a pump wearer, so he wears a device that gives him insulin in micro doses every 5 minutes. We call that a baseline, and then he gets a dose of insulin anytime he eats carbs. So type 1 diabetics no longer have beta cells that create insulin. Their body has killed them off, and so externally they have to receive insulin in some capacity, and that could be through injections or through a device pump that delivers insulin to them. So we are currently in a phase, because he's 14 and going into high school and then eventually college, hopefully, where we're trying to transition him to owning his management, and we provide support. So it's an interesting phase. We're having to relinquish control for him, and he's having to take over the reins. So what that looks like for us is I may provide him, he may forget to charge his device, so I run him a backup battery. He may run out of insulin, so I run him a cartridge. So just playing backup to his starting quarterback.
Got it. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I mean, that does obviously requires a lot on your end. I think kind of that transition phase that you're talking about, I think is really important for him too, so he can learn kind of just, how to do it on his own. I think that's not just good for managing his diabetes, but also too just a good life lesson as well, because that's that transition phase. I remember when I was that age, going into middle school and high school, I didn't know how to do something simple like laundry. I didn't know how to cook a lot of things. I didn't know this, that, and the other. I didn't learn a lot secret time. I didn't learn a lot of that stuff until after high school. So I had to learn on the fly. But yeah, so I think that's just really great that he's kind of learning to be kind of self-dependent a little more, and especially at such an early age.
Before he leaves the nest, right?
Exactly.
So, yes, it's hard to relinquish control as parents, but that's our guiding philosophy. Is it's been his disease, so he needs to ultimately own the management of it. He also wears another device that tells us his blood sugar. It updates us every 5 minutes. So we're a little bit like crack addicts, like checking our phones constantly, sending him baby reminders. Hey, we notice you're a little high, your blood sugar's a little high. Could you do a correction? Or hey, what do you need a site change? Or hey, just sending reminders. So yeah, it's more difficult than I thought it would be to relinquish control. And
Yeah, no, understandable. No mom in general ever wants to relinquish control of their babies, for sure. So like kudos to you for like learning to do it and kind of learning through it. The reason I wanted to unpack this before we got into kind of your fitness story was a lot of times I feel like, busy moms, so whether or not they're dealing like with like kids that have diabetes or whatever, or just kids in general, a lot of times they'll use that as, I don't want to say an excuse, but they'll use that as a reason for not to start their fitness journey, and a reason not to eat healthy, and a reason not, because they're so focused in on their kids or their spouses or whatever, they're so focused on other things, they don't have any time to focus on themselves. So that's kind of where I wanted to segue into now. I'm just curious, like, what does fitness look like in your life? So just kind of like from when you were maybe like a teenager and through, like what does fitness look like? What's worked? What doesn't work? Just kind of elaborate on that.
I have anxiety, as
okay.
I'm sure a lot of people do. And so exercise for me has always been a release valve. I've been a swimmer most of my life, competitively, up through, I would say, college, and then I picked it back up after I started having babies for a bit. Being in the water kind of allows you to untangle your own thoughts and get out of your own head, and that's what fitness allows me to do. Is I'm not so focused on what's the next thing that needs to be done, who needs to be taken care of, what job needs to get done, what task needs to get done, and it allows you to just be present in the moment and kind of get out of my own head. So I was a swimmer, and then I started having babies and working, and life presented roadblocks. So getting back into it for me, especially now as my kids are older and they're finding their own passions and joys in life, has been really fun, because again, it allows me to get out of my own head and focus on being present in the day or the moment, instead of focusing on the next task, the next day, the next week, getting through this week.
Yeah, no, totally. That's a really great point. And like allowing to put yourself first. If you guys backtrack and check out our episode with Marie Damon, she puts it best. She puts herself on the calendar. So it's like, hey, put yourself as number one on the calendar. Like, hey, set aside something in the day that like you can do. And for you, it sounds like it was swimming. Now I know it's coming to Fit Body Bootcamp, which is really awesome, which we'll touch on in just a second. But just kind of setting that time aside and just making sure like, hey, in addition to taking care of that family unit, like you need to be taking care of yourself first, because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're, maybe let's say eating unhealthy, not sleeping, all these things, like that's going to bleed over into like the rest of life. That's going to bleed over into the family stuff, and that's going to set a chain reaction. What I always say too is like, everyone looks up to their mom, everyone looks up to their dad. So if they're setting a good example, kids are going to rise to that and probably go even better. If they're setting a poor example, the kids are probably going to rise to that and be even poorer. It's going to be even worse. So I think it's really important.
I also feel it's very important, two things. When I was first sent home with a type 1 diabetic child, and we were having to do shots, and you're having to hurt your child, and we were crying, he was crying, everyone was crying. It was kind of a difficult time. My pediatrician gave me the best advice, and she said, start writing the things down that you need to do for yourself. Write on your task list that you need to take a shower. Write on your task list that you're going to get a workout in, or if you can't fit 30 minutes in for a workout, 10 minutes for a walk. Just get outside, put it on the to-do list so that you can take care of yourself. And she also said you can't fill anyone else's bucket if your bucket is empty on a continuous basis. So you do need to take, it doesn't have to be very long. It can be a 10-minute walk around the block to fill yourself and make sure yourself is a priority.
100%, and you deserve to be that priority, which is really, really awesome. So yeah, thank you so much. That's some like really, really awesome knowledge. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there watching this episode that like need to do that aren't doing that currently, and are always like putting others before them and not putting themselves, at any point on the calendar or on that to-do list. So I think that's a really, really awesome piece of advice. So everybody at home, make sure you guys are writing this down.
Coach Bryce here. Now, you might know me as the co-host of this podcast and the owner of Mission Viejo Fit Body. But what many people don't know is that began my fitness journey as a fitness transformation. Now, you see, circuit training and nutrition coaching absolutely changed my life after being overweight with a diet of mainly fast food in my late teens. Now, upon my fitness transformation in early 2007, yes, I gained a much better physique as I was overweight and I lacked lean muscle. But way more than burning fat and building lean muscle, I increased my self-confidence, my energy, and my vibrancy to live life on life's terms. Now, it's for these reasons that many people join our boot camp. Now, in fact, with our Ultimate Transformation Program, we guarantee, yes, guarantee, that you'll lose at least 10 pounds within 6 weeks, or your program is free until you do. Now, go ahead and visit our website at missionviejofitbody.com. Now, thanks, and back to the show.
I guess kind of segueing in, so let's talk about, your Fit Body experience. Like how did you find Fit Body? What are some of the things you like about Fit Body, and kind of like, how's it all going?
I am 1.3 miles away, and so I had a friend who started during COVID, and I am not always so great at wanting to do the research of trying a new gym or going on vacation. I would rather just piggyback off of someone else, and so my friend started, and I came with her, and we started our free week trial. And I've kind of been here ever since. It was super fun when we were in our own squares, our own 6-foot squares.
Back in the COVID days.
Back in COVID. And now I've made friends. Like, it's great. I've made really great friends. I've found Sam Fit, who lives in my neighborhood, Trish, who lives in the neighborhood across the way. And so I said the 1.3 thing because I sometimes walk here. And so it's so convenient. It only takes me 4 minutes with lights to get from the door to door, or it'll take me 20 minutes if I walk.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a really great one. You found a place that's like super close by. And two, also good, something too that we covered in Sam Fit's episode, so backtrack to Sam's episode, was just the idea of like the community. So just like having, friends that you make. And also too, like, it's funny, like, did you know Sam before you started working out here?
No, I didn't, and she lives
in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, down the street, around the corner.
Yeah, it's so funny when you have that like situation where it's like, hey, you're talking about maybe where you live, and it's like, oh yeah, I live over in like this neighborhood. They're like, wait, off of this street? It's like, yeah, off of that street. It's like, oh, we're actually neighbors, but we've never met each other because you've never been in the common spot. So that's really awesome.
Yes.
And that's so cool. And I'm glad that you've kind of like found friends and things like that. Have you tried going to other gyms in the past? Was there anything else that you've tried? Is there anything that specifically didn't really work? Is there anything that you did like or that did work?
I did. I tried. I am not a person that is going to push myself to work out at home all the time. I need a coach kind of pushing me a little further, pick up a heavier weight, go a little harder. Don't stop at 3 seconds. I'm going to turn the clock off. So I tried the YMCA. I found some instructors I loved, but then COVID hit, and also it was not 4 minutes door to door, so it wasn't convenient in terms of traffic to get up to the gym, to the Y.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it sounds like the convenience is one of like the major things, like it, like playing a part in like terms of like the place that you feel the best at. Because you don't want to have to drive, 20 minutes. So even if you're getting like a 30-minute workout, like, hey, 20 minutes there, 30 minutes at the gym, 20 minutes home, like now you're looking at over an hour of time. That makes total sense, like the convenience-wise. So just kind of everyone out there, like one, when you're looking to find somewhere to work out, like one, convenience is really like awesome. Like sometimes it's just not in the cards that it's gonna be convenient, like just depending on like your geographical area and where you live. But if you can find somewhere convenient, like that makes it so much easier because there's no excuse of like, oh, there's traffic, I can't get there. Like I would never accept that excuse from you, and especially knowing you live so close, I'd be like, well, just get out of your car, leave your car in traffic and walk if the traffic is that bad. But just finding somewhere that's convenient is like, priority number one. And there's somewhere too where you can like make friends, there's gonna be like-minded people, gonna be kind of very, very similar. So I think that's really, really awesome.
And removing roadblocks, the convenience is one, and sticking out the awkward phase where you walk in and you're like, I don't know anyone, I don't want to be here, I'm uncomfortable. I know our gym here at Fit Body tries to do a really good job of welcoming new people and making sure that they feel welcome, and we're not so cliquey that we have some chatty Cathys in our, we're not so involved in our little circle that we don't include new people. But
Definitely.
Sticking past that phase and allowing yourself the opportunity to make new friendships.
That's an awesome point, and that's something, a lot of people, like in any situation, it's the same thing like when you started a new school, when you're going from high school to college, or when you're, whatever the situation may be, whether or not it's going to the gym itself, is just kind of riding out, those couple days, maybe a couple weeks of just like awkwardness, and like also too, like having like the confidence to take the leap and to introduce yourself to one person. So sometimes that's all it takes, is just like, hey, that one introduction of like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm Jake, nice to meet you. Like, I just started working out here. Like, how long have you been working out here for? And then just kind of starting that conversation. And yeah, maybe you have to do that 1 or 2 times, because, maybe that person you're introducing yourself, maybe you guys aren't just meant to be best friends, and that's okay. But odds are, like, you'll find that good friend, and you'll find that person, like just like you have, I know, in like Sahar and Sam Fit and all the rest of the crew.
Yeah, a lot of them. And also, I like to pick the person who's gonna push you. Like, pick the one that looks like they're working out the hardest and kind of follow them, because even if you're not where they are, you push yourself a little harder when you're working out with someone next to someone who's like fit and lifting heavier and doing all the things and doing it faster than you. And even if you can't keep up, you're working a little harder than you would have been.
100%. That's actually a really, really good point. So I'd like to take a second on that one. It's always good to have the buddies, but you don't want to have buddies that are just going to talk the whole time and not push you or anything like that. You want to have that person that's going to be pushing and things like that. Like specifically from my own experience, like thinking back, like some of the best times like I've ever had in the gym was when I was working out with like my bodybuilder friends. Like I've always loved lifting weights, and like I've always been a weightlifting junkie, but never been super duper serious about it. Like in terms of like, the bodybuilding stuff. But like I made a friend one time, his name is Shane, huge guy, like giant guy. Like if you saw him from across the gym, you'd probably be a little intimidated, a little scared of him. But like I just took getting to know him a little bit, and like turns out like he's the sweetest guy ever. Like it was always so much fun. But like he pushed me so hard. Like he was making me do weights that I'd never done before, and like that I would never have tried if it weren't for that person. So I think it's a very similar situation. Yeah, I know Sahara's always pushing her pace. She's not taking her breaks. So having that buddy is good.
10 years younger than me.
Hey,
So yeah, but that's why I introduced myself to Sahar, was because she was going harder, she was going faster, pushing herself a little more, and I thought, well, I want to work out with her.
Yeah.
I want to push myself a little harder.
Totally. Yeah, so that's definitely a really, really good piece of advice, because that's something that a lot of people fail to see, because a lot of people see that person that's maybe like quote unquote intimidating, or they're moving a lot faster than me, like, hey, I'm slow, they're fast, I don't think we could ever kind of like get along. Like, yeah, you totally can. And like also too, hey, maybe like it's weird, you wouldn't probably envision Sahar being like your best friend ever, but she is. Like you guys have book club, you guys are hanging out on the weekends, you guys are talking all the time, like you're involved in like helping her plan her wedding and all this stuff that she's doing. But like again, that would have never happened if you didn't take that one little leap just to go and introduce yourself. Yeah. So I think that's really, really important. So that's really awesome stuff to take away home. Well, cool. Well, I'm so glad to hear you're having such an awesome experience at FitBody, and that you've been enjoying yourself. You're getting great results. You're coming in, you're working out. Like you always leave happier than when you come in. So regardless of what's going on at home, I know like a lot of times, like you said, like it's difficult like with your kids. It's difficult with their schedules. I know you're saying you were just planning, like your daughter was in a play, so you're working backstage and doing everything else. So I'm super happy to hear that you've really been loving your time at boot camp. Like that makes me super happy as a coach. Obviously, like this is like my FitBody's my baby. Like I love it, and I put everything into it. So I'm so happy to hear you're getting good results from it.
I do really, and now I've got roped my husband in. I'm really excited.
Exactly,
so
yeah,
now
that's
we can
right.
do that together.
That's right. Hey, you know what they say? Couples that work out together stay together. So hopefully. So cool. So as we got into transition, we're almost out of time. So this is a local podcast. So, it's obviously the Fit Life Orange County podcast. Where can we find, your family on the weekends? Like, what are you guys out doing? Like, is there any specific spots around Orange County that you guys like to frequent? You guys going down to the beach, going down to the mountains, you guys going hiking? Is there anywhere you guys like to go?
Well, currently we're in our sports phase era. My son is in travel ball. My daughter's doing soccer, so we spend a lot of time at the ball field. But if we're not at the ball field, I do love Divers Cove in Laguna Beach. If you haven't checked out Divers Cove, it's an easy parking. Take steps down and you're at like an amazing beach. So I do like to take advantage of the beaches. Or I'm out walking my pupper, Luna, my 18-month-old husky. So I do a lot of trail walks with her. To get her out of the house and get me out of the house.
That's awesome. Well, good. So I guess the last question that I really have is if you had a parting piece of wisdom, a parting piece of advice for Shauna that's sitting at home, Shauna 1.0 that hasn't, made the change, hasn't gone out and tried getting fit, hasn't tried changing their nutrition, and that is sitting home and is like really scared, doesn't know if they want to try a gym, whether it be FitBody Bootcamp or any gym, or maybe they want to go for a run, what would you tell Shauna 1.0 that's sitting at home watching this episode?
I think you would be surprised by how much change you see if you find a place you love. So removing the roadblocks and getting outside your own head to find something that you could really, really enjoy.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome. That's really great advice. Mic drop on that one. So that is it. Shauna, thank you so much for sitting down and taking the time and having this conversation with me. I know there's a lot of people that are going to get some benefit from this episode. If you watching got benefit from this episode, be sure to like, comment, and share this with a friend, and we'll see you in the next episode.